The process begins with a 30 grit rough cut. This is being done to remove an old sealer, but normally on a fresh pour of an overlay. This would be done to remove the polymer layer, any tool marks, just to smooth out the floor. Here it's being used to do a removal of sealer, but also to lay in that new scratch. The old sealer can be seen to be weakly bonded, but more importantly, the scratches that are being put into the floor is to establish a new plane or a flatness. Here it's being done to also remove that old coating. The surface is gone over thoroughly in the hopes that all elevation inequalities will be reduced, as well as to remove any surface contamination that may be there from the previous use of the floor as well as the placement. Next, an 80 grit is ran over the floor to remove those 30 grit scratches. This is how the refinement process takes place. The 80 grit scratch is being created to take the place of the 30. The 80 grit scratch is much more tightly packed, the floor is getting a bit darker. The 30 grit can obviously be seen as a different type of profile, much more aggressive. This process, like the one that preceded it, is done thoroughly and completely to make sure that the entire surface has been covered by this 80 grit diamond. Changing over to pads, this begins the polishing portion of the work, which is to remove the scratches from the step that preceded it. Same as the 80s did that for the 30s. This particular tool, 100 grit copper, will remove the scratches from the 80 grits. This is a copper pad or a hybrid pad. Can also be called a bridge step. Basically the step of polishing that connects the metal process, the metal diamond process, to the resin polishing process. Though they're all important steps, this is the one that will remove those metal scratches and begin the process of the resin polishing. It goes without saying this will be a slower process because care has to be taken that all metal scratches are replaced. A closer look shows that the floor is much more refined than it was before. The scratches are more tightly packed together than the 80 grit. Though the 80 is smooth, visible scratches can be seen. The 100 grit copper removes those scratches or replaces them. Same as the preceding step, this one is done again over the whole floor, taking time to remove all metal scratches that are there and replacing them with that 100 grit copper scratch. Next is a 200 grit resin. The pads are changed and the surface is gone over. There's really no need for a closer look at this point because the reflection of light in the background can be seen in the surface of the floor. This is as it's becoming more refined. As those 100 grit scratches get replaced, the profile becomes more smooth. Next is a 400 grit. The process will proceed again the same way. A 400 grit scratch is going to replace that 200 grit scratch, and the reflection will be improved. Pads are changed again, this time to an 800 grit resin. This will be the last step because normally a chemical treatment takes place afterward to protect and seal it. As can be seen from the video, the floor is becoming more refined as the background light is reflecting more and the clarity is improving. And that's about it, the complete process to polish and overlay.